My male boss fired me, while he had no idea I own 90% of the company stock. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Emma sat frozen in her chair, the words still echoing in her mind like a cruel joke. Her heart pounded against her ribcage, each beat reverberating through her body with an intensity that made it hard to breathe. Across the desk, Mr. Harrison's face remained stoic, his polished mahogany table serving as a barrier between them, though not nearly as formidable as the invisible wall of corporate hierarchy he believed separated them. His tailored suit and perfectly knotted tie seemed almost comical now, considering what he didn't know about the woman sitting before him. Emma had always been meticulous about maintaining professional boundaries at work, carefully cultivating her image as just another dedicated employee among many. She'd risen through the ranks steadily over the past 5 years, earning her position as senior marketing director through sheer talent and relentless determination. Yet here she was, facing termination from a man who couldn't even meet her eyes as he delivered the news. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on her, it burned like acid in her throat, threatening to escape in either laughter or tears. Her fingers trembled slightly as they brushed against the edge of her leather portfolio, where copies of stock certificates lay hidden beneath routine reports and marketing strategies. 90% ownership of Harrison Enterprises, acquired through years of careful investment and strategic acquisitions, all while maintaining her role as a dedicated employee. Her father's unexpected inheritance had provided the initial capital, but it was her vision and business acumen that had transformed those funds into controlling interest in one of the city's most prominent companies. The office windows behind Mr. Harrison framed the bustling city skyline, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the room. Emma watched as a pigeon landed on the window ledge, its head bobbing rhythmically, completely unaware of the drama unfolding mere feet away. She found herself envying its simple existence, free from the complexities of human ambition and corporate politics. Her mind raced through countless memories of late nights spent perfecting campaigns, of mentoring junior staff members, of steering the company through challenging market conditions, all while keeping her true identity as majority shareholder carefully concealed. Mr. Harrison cleared his throat, breaking her reverie. "I understand this comes as a shock," he began, his voice carrying that practiced tone of corporate empathy that never quite reached his eyes. "But these are difficult times, and we must make tough decisions." His words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of justification he didn't need to provide. To him, Emma was just another line item in a budget spreadsheet, another name on a list of redundancies designed to streamline operations and boost quarterly profits. What he couldn't see was the fire igniting behind Emma's calm exterior. Years of navigating boardrooms and executive meetings had taught her the value of maintaining composure, but this moment tested every ounce of her self-control. She thought of all the times she'd sat in those same meetings, listening to him present strategies she'd helped develop, watching him take credit for initiatives she'd championed. The realization hit her with sudden clarity. She'd been playing a role so convincingly that even the supposed leader of the company had failed to recognize her true influence. Her gaze drifted to the framed photograph on his desk, a picture of his family taken during last year's company retreat. She remembered that day vividly. It had been her idea to host the event at that particular resort, knowing how much the employees would appreciate the change of scenery. As she studied the faces in the photo, she felt a pang of sadness for what might have been. Despite everything, she genuinely respected Mr. Harrison's operational skills and had hoped to build a strong partnership once she revealed her position. Now, that possibility seemed as distant as the mountains visible through his office window. The clock on the wall ticked methodically, each second marking another moment where the truth remained unspoken between them. Emma knew she could end this charade with a single sentence, could watch the color drain from his face as he realized the magnitude of his mistake. But something held her back, perhaps the need to understand why he'd made this decision, or maybe the desire to see how far this scenario would play out. Whatever the reason, she maintained her silence, letting him believe he held all the power in this conversation. As Mr. Harrison continued explaining the severance package and outlining the exit procedures, Emma's mind wandered back to the day she'd first walked through these office doors. Fresh out of business school, armed with her secret inheritance and a burning ambition to prove herself on her own terms, she'd vowed to build something extraordinary. Little did she know then how deeply she would become entangled in the fabric of this company, how much of herself she would invest in its success. And now, faced with this ultimate test of her resolve, she felt the pieces of her carefully constructed world shifting beneath her feet. The first signs of trouble had begun months earlier, subtle ripples in the otherwise smooth surface of Emma's professional life. It started with small changes, her ideas being dismissed more frequently in meetings, her contributions going unacknowledged in company-wide communications. At first, she chalked it up to the natural ebb and flow of office dynamics, but the pattern persisted, growing more pronounced with each passing week. During a particularly crucial product launch meeting, Emma had presented a comprehensive marketing strategy that would leverage emerging social media trends to capture a younger demographic. She'd spent weeks analyzing data, consulting with industry experts, and crafting a detailed implementation plan. Yet when the campaign launched months later, it bore only superficial resemblance to her proposal, credited instead to a junior team member who had barely contributed to the original concept. The emotional toll mounted as these incidents multiplied. There were mornings when Emma would wake up dreading the walk to her office, knowing she'd have to face the dismissive glances and patronizing comments that had become increasingly common. Colleagues who had once sought her advice now avoided eye contact in the hallway, their behavior subtly shifting in response to some unseen signal from above. The isolation grew heavier with each passing day, pressing down on her chest like a physical weight. Even her closest confidants at work began treating her differently, their conversations laced with awkward pauses and forced smiles that spoke volumes about the atmosphere permeating the office. What hurt most was the erosion of her sense of purpose. Emma had always defined herself by her work, finding deep satisfaction in solving complex problems and driving the company towards success. Each successful campaign, each quarter of increased revenue, had felt like personal victories that validated her worth. Now, stripped of recognition and respect, she struggled to maintain the passion that had fueled her rise through the ranks. Nights that were once filled with brainstorming sessions and strategic planning became endless hours of staring at the ceiling, questioning her abilities and wondering if she'd somehow fallen short of expectations. The turning point came during a particularly grueling board meeting. As Emma presented her quarterly report, detailing innovative approaches to market expansion and cost optimization, she noticed Mr. Harrison exchanging knowing looks with other executives. When she finished, rather than acknowledging her contributions, he redirected the discussion to minor operational details, effectively dismissing her comprehensive analysis. The other board members followed his lead without hesitation, their collective dismissal striking her with the force of a physical blow. Sitting there, maintaining her professional demeanor while feeling utterly invisible, Emma realized that her position within the company had fundamentally changed. The woman who had once commanded respect and attention now found herself marginalized, her voice drowned out by those who had previously valued her insights. This systematic undermining extended beyond formal meetings. Emails went unanswered, project proposals disappeared into bureaucratic limbo, and opportunities for high-profile assignments evaporated. The office grapevine buzzed with rumors about restructuring and performance reviews, creating an atmosphere of uncertainty that seemed deliberately orchestrated. Emma recognized the classic signs of a hostile work environment: the subtle manipulation of circumstances to create doubt and anxiety, the calculated isolation that left her feeling professionally adrift. What made it uniquely painful was knowing that she possessed the power to end it all with a single revelation, yet choosing to endure the ordeal for reasons she couldn't fully articulate. The stress manifested in physical ways. Sleepless nights gave way to dark circles under her eyes, her appetite fluctuated erratically, and tension headaches became a daily companion. Friends outside the company noticed the change, commenting on her withdrawn demeanor and the haunted look that sometimes clouded her usually bright eyes. Yet even in her lowest moments, Emma maintained her daily routine with mechanical precision, arriving early and leaving late, pouring her energy into projects that might never see the light of day. The injustice of her situation festered like an open wound, exacerbated by the knowledge that she was essentially being systematically erased from the company she had helped build and sustain. Through it all, Emma found herself reflecting on the nature of power dynamics in corporate culture. She had witnessed similar patterns play out throughout her career: talented individuals pushed aside, their contributions minimized or appropriated by those higher up the ladder. But experiencing it firsthand, despite her unique position of actual authority, offered a perspective that cut deeper than any academic understanding ever could. The realization that her gender played a role in this treatment added another layer of complexity to her emotions, stirring old frustrations and reigniting battles she thought she'd moved past. In the sterile confines of the conference room adjacent to Mr. Harrison's office, Emma found herself surrounded by cardboard boxes and scattered papers, the physical manifestation of her professional demise. The irony wasn't lost on her: she was packing up her career in the very space where she had celebrated some of her greatest achievements. Through the glass walls, she could see employees stealing curious glances, their expressions ranging from genuine concern to barely concealed schadenfreude. Each box she packed felt like sealing away a piece of her identity, yet her hands moved with practiced efficiency, betraying none of the turmoil raging within. Her assistant, Sarah, hovered nearby, torn between offering help and respecting Emma's privacy. Their relationship had evolved beyond professional boundaries over the years, forged through late-night strategy sessions and shared victories. Now, as Sarah quietly sorted through files and organized documents, Emma caught glimpses of her own reflection in the young woman's eyes, the same determination, the same drive that had propelled her through countless challenges. A pang of guilt struck her as she realized she was leaving behind someone who had placed such faith in her leadership. The phone on her desk buzzed persistently, clients and colleagues trying to reach her one last time. Each call represented a thread in the intricate web of relationships she had woven throughout her tenure. Marketing partners whose collaboration she had nurtured, industry contacts whose trust she had earned through years of consistent performance, junior staff members who had looked to her for guidance, all reaching out, seeking answers she couldn't provide. The weight of these connections pressed heavily upon her shoulders, each unanswered call adding another layer to the emotional burden she carried. Outside the conference room window, the city stretched endlessly, its skyline punctuated by buildings housing competitors and collaborators alike. Emma's mind drifted to the numerous professional networks she had cultivated, the industry events where she had been a familiar face, the conferences where her insights had been eagerly anticipated. These connections had formed the foundation of her reputation, separate from her role at Harrison Enterprises, yet intrinsically linked to her success. The thought of severing these ties, even temporarily, felt like cutting through vital arteries that had sustained her professional life. Her phone vibrated again, this time with a text from Marcus, her counterpart at a major advertising agency. "Heard about your departure. Lunch next week." The message was typical Marcus, direct yet supportive, offering solidarity without prying. It occurred to Emma that her network existed independently of Mr. Harrison's approval, that her professional worth wasn't confined to the four walls of this office. Yet the immediate future loomed uncertain, filled with questions about how to navigate this unprecedented situation while maintaining the delicate balance between her public and private identities. As she carefully packed her laptop and personal items, Emma's thoughts turned to the shareholders' meeting scheduled for next month. She had planned to reveal her ownership stake then, intending to use her position to advocate for progressive changes in company policies and practices. The timing of her termination threw these plans into chaos, forcing her to reconsider her entire strategy. Would the board react differently knowing she had been fired? Would her revelation be seen as vindictive rather than visionary? The complexity of these considerations weighed heavily on her mind, each potential scenario more complicated than the last. The sound of heels clicking against the marble floor drew her attention to the doorway, where several of her closest colleagues lingered awkwardly. Their presence spoke volumes about the impact she had made during her time at the company, yet their hesitant body language reflected the fear that often accompanies association with a terminated employee. Emma forced a smile, recognizing the courage it took for them to show support in such a charged atmosphere. As she exchanged quiet words with each visitor, she realized that her influence extended far beyond official titles and organizational charts. It lived in the lives she had touched, the careers she had helped shape, the culture she had helped create. The afternoon light began to fade, casting long shadows across the conference room. With each passing minute, Emma felt herself transforming from senior marketing director to something else entirely, a figure caught between worlds, possessing power she couldn't yet wield and connections she couldn't immediately access. The boxes stacked neatly by the door represented more than just physical possessions. They symbolized the accumulated weight of years spent building a professional identity that was now being dismantled piece by piece. Yet beneath the surface of this carefully maintained composure, a different kind of strength was beginning to emerge, forged in the crucible of injustice and tempered by the knowledge that the final chapter of this story had yet to be written. The days following her termination unfolded in a surreal haze of conflicting emotions and strategic calculations. Emma found herself oscillating between moments of raw vulnerability and bursts of determined resolve, each extreme feeding into the other in an endless cycle. In the solitude of her apartment, she allowed herself to fully experience the anger and betrayal that had been simmering beneath her professional facade. The walls of her living room bore witness to silent tears and whispered curses, while the kitchen counters served as impromptu workspaces for feverishly scribbled notes and hastily drafted emails. Professionally, she maintained an impeccable outward appearance. Industry contacts received carefully worded responses explaining her departure, each message crafted to preserve relationships while leaving room for future possibilities. The morning coffee meetings that had once centered around company strategy now focused on broader market trends and personal development, as Emma began subtly reshaping her professional narrative. She found herself attending networking events with renewed purpose, engaging in conversations that transcended her previous role and hinted at larger ambitions. Yet behind closed doors, the emotional toll manifested in unexpected ways. Sleep became elusive, her mind racing through scenarios and possibilities well into the early hours. The gym, once a place of routine exercise, transformed into a sanctuary where she could channel her frustration into physical exertion. Her bookshelves, previously dominated by marketing texts and business journals, began filling with volumes on psychology, leadership, and organizational dynamics. Each new insight sparked both hope and anxiety, illuminating paths forward while highlighting the risks involved. The financial implications of her situation created another layer of complexity. While her ownership stake ensured her financial security, the loss of steady income and benefits required careful consideration. Investment portfolios were reviewed, passive income streams analyzed, and contingency plans developed with meticulous attention to detail. This process, while pragmatic, forced her to confront deeper questions about her relationship with money and power, about the intersection of personal values and professional ambition. Perhaps most challenging was managing her interactions with former colleagues. Social media notifications brought constant reminders of the world she had left behind, each update a potential trigger for comparison or regret. Some messages carried genuine concern, others thinly veiled curiosity, and a few contained unmistakable notes of triumph. Emma learned to read between the lines of these digital exchanges, using them to gauge the shifting currents of office politics and identify potential allies in her evolving situation. Her calendar, once filled with meetings and deadlines, now displayed blocks of time dedicated to self-reflection and strategic planning. Morning meditation sessions replaced early office arrivals, while evening journaling rituals substituted for late-night work marathons. These new habits, initially adopted as coping mechanisms, gradually revealed themselves as essential tools for processing her experiences and clarifying her vision for the future. The pages of her journal filled with observations about corporate culture, insights into human behavior, and sketches of organizational structures that might better serve both employees and shareholders. The contrast between her public and private personas grew more pronounced with each passing day. Professional acquaintances remarked on her apparent resilience, noting how she seemed to be handling the transition with grace and poise. Only those closest to her understood the depth of her internal struggle, the sleepless nights spent questioning her decisions and rehearsing confrontations that might never occur. This duality became both a source of strength and a psychological burden, requiring constant vigilance to maintain the necessary separation between her carefully curated public image and her authentic emotional reality. As weeks turned into months, Emma found herself developing a new appreciation for patience and timing. The initial impulse to immediately reveal her ownership stake and exact retribution gave way to a more nuanced understanding of power dynamics and organizational evolution. She began seeing her current position not as a crisis to be overcome, but as an opportunity to redefine her relationship with the company she had helped build. This shift in perspective brought both relief and new challenges, as she navigated the complex interplay between personal pride and professional responsibility, between justice and wisdom, between immediate gratification and long-term impact. The city's autumn chill seeped through the windows of Emma's home office as she stared at the confidential documents spread across her desk. Months of careful observation and strategic positioning had led her to this moment, where the threads of Harrison Enterprises' future lay waiting to be rewoven. Her fingers traced the edges of quarterly financial reports, market analysis summaries, and personnel evaluations, each document telling a story of opportunities missed and potential squandered. The company she had helped build from the inside now stood at a crossroads, its direction influenced by forces that failed to recognize the true architect of its success. Every morning, Emma's inbox filled with updates from her network of contacts within the company, whispers of discontent from middle management, rumors of impending restructuring, and concerns about declining market share. These fragments of information painted a picture of an organization slowly unraveling under the weight of misguided leadership decisions. She watched as initiatives she had championed were either abandoned or mismanaged, their original purpose distorted beyond recognition. The pain of witnessing this decline was compounded by the knowledge that she possessed the means to intervene, yet chose to observe and learn instead. Her position as majority shareholder afforded her access to perspectives that most employees could only guess at. Board meeting minutes revealed fractures in leadership unity, investor reports highlighted growing dissatisfaction among stakeholders, and market analyses showed alarming trends in customer retention. Each piece of information added another layer to her understanding of the company's vulnerabilities, while simultaneously presenting opportunities for transformation. The challenge lay in determining which battles to fight, which alliances to forge, and which sacrifices to make in pursuit of meaningful change. The emotional landscape of her journey had shifted dramatically since her termination. What began as a personal affront had evolved into a profound education in corporate governance and human nature. Emma found herself grappling with questions that transcended simple notions of revenge or vindication. Should she, separate her personal experiences from her responsibilities as a majority shareholder? How could she address the systemic issues that had led to her marginalization without appearing vengeful or self-serving? These considerations weighed heavily on her decisions, each potential action carrying consequences that rippled far beyond her individual circumstance. Her evenings were spent drafting proposals and strategic plans that balanced ambitious vision with practical implementation. The documents she created weren't just blueprints for corporate restructuring, they were manifestos for cultural transformation, roadmaps for creating an organization that valued merit over hierarchy, innovation over tradition. Yet with each plan she developed, she faced the daunting task of determining the right moment to reveal her hand, to step out of the shadows and claim her rightful place at the helm of Harrison Enterprises. The relationships she had cultivated throughout her career proved invaluable in this period of strategic preparation. Former colleagues who had witnessed her capabilities became potential advocates for change, their loyalty forged through years of shared challenges and successes. Industry contacts who had benefited from her expertise offered insights into market trends and competitive landscapes, while mentors provided counsel on navigating the complex waters of corporate politics. These connections formed the foundation of a support network that extended far beyond the confines of Harrison Enterprises, offering both practical assistance and emotional reinforcement. As winter approached, Emma found herself standing at the threshold of a decision that would irrevocably alter the trajectory of her life and the company she had helped build. The evidence of mismanagement and declining performance mounted with each passing day, while the window of opportunity for intervention grew narrower. Her ownership stake represented both a tremendous responsibility and an unparalleled opportunity to reshape not just a company, but an entire corporate culture. Yet the path forward remained obscured by competing priorities and moral considerations, each step forward requiring careful calculation and unwavering conviction. The weight of this responsibility settled heavily upon her shoulders, manifesting in sleepless nights spent poring over financial projections and personnel assessments. Every decision carried the potential to affect hundreds of lives, to determine the fate of families dependent on the company's success. This awareness transformed her personal struggle into something far greater than individual vindication. It became a mission to create something enduring and meaningful, to build an organization that exemplified the values she had fought to uphold throughout her career. Emma stood at the boardroom door, her heart steady now, clutching a single folder containing proof of her ownership. The murmurs inside quieted as she entered, every eye turning to her. Mr. Harrison's face froze in confusion, then dawning realization, as she placed the documents on the table. "I'm not here for revenge," she began, her voice calm but resolute. "I'm here to save this company from itself." She outlined her vision, a workplace built on fairness, innovation, and respect. Her proposals were met with nods from shareholders eager for change. As Mr. Harrison sat speechless, Emma felt no triumph, only purpose. Power wasn't about control, it was about responsibility. And she would wield hers wisely. In that moment, Emma stepped fully into her role, not just as owner, but as leader. She had faced betrayal, isolation, and doubt, yet emerged stronger. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but she knew one thing for certain: Harrison Enterprises would rise again, and so would she.